G'day everyone. Proud to say Barkarati is brought to you by Radix Nutrition, makers of the most technically comprehensive nutrition products that have ever existed. Unlock your potential with Radix. G'day listeners, welcome to Barkarati the Sailing Podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the mic with my two idiot mates. So first off, let's welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
How's that furniture moving going, bud?
G'day all. Well, yeah, mate. That's a tough job, that, being a furniture removalist. I can tell you.
Yeah.
No, yes, that's true. Moving house, but dealing with a whole heap of other things. Sydney traffic is not the easiest at the moment, but anyway, moving on. Good to have all three of us together at the same time. Not been easy over the last couple of weeks.
No, it's been difficult. Absolutely. Let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Boss.
Yeah, I'm sure this won't be the case, but a little bit tired still. Sunday morning, just did the Maxi Association Trade Golfy race, 150 miler, which is, we all know, 150 miles too short for a watch.
Yeah,
too long to get any sleep.
Too long to sleep.
Yeah.
Which action packed.
Big Arvo start and finish early in the morning, and so you don't sleep for about 40 hours, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds a bit like the great race, mate. The world's best race, the Peakle Classic, very similar in length.
Well, the second best. Second
best, yes. Yeah.
We don't want to brag, you know.
Well, you had a good race. That's for sure. But we'll come back to that. I think we'll do that. Talk about that later on in the show. But congratulations, nice job. What we will talk about now is our guest. Interesting one. This is one we've sort of had in the back of our mind for a long time. The game changer. I think, like this man.
Oh, good.
I think this man changed the game of sailing. Not by himself, but he was the man that moved it into the world where it's falling. Every little youngster out there right now owes their fun to this man. Basically, there was certainly lots of different iterations of falling, but the way you see a falling moth was led pretty much by our guest today, and that's Rohan Veal. Welcome to the show, Rohan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How are you going?
I feel like you've probably heard this enough, so you're not too sure what you're getting yourself in for here. But my memory of when you sort of first emerged was seeing these images and stories of you falling around on a moth and winning races by 15, 17 minutes sort of thing. Like that's the first memory to me of you. Do you remember that much?
Yeah, it was probably it was early days, 2004, 5, something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember us doing some races at World Championships and stuff. They had some pretty big things there.
Yep.
I just personally remember a big poster in Sydney rigging when you won the Worlds. There was a poster there, and I thought, oh yeah, look at that thing go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I encountered the same thing. I'd be in the other side of the world, and I remember in South Africa or somewhere in the US and going to a chandlery, and they got a poster on the wall there as well. It's quite surreal seeing it at the time. And then I'm with someone who goes, oh, that's him on the wall. I'm like, oh, really? And then, you have to tell the whole story.
Wow.
Type thing. But,
well, while we are trotting down memory lane, I remember the 0506 Volvo race in Melbourne. And you brought the moth inside Docklands there, and was just falling around, and everyone, all us yachties, on the bows of the boat, watching this moth falling around, like blowing everyone's mind. So
yeah, it wasn't easy because it's pretty gusty in there. And, I remember that, and I think I got to go out on the ABN AMRO 2 with Seb Joss.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, and that's right. And then we had Geelong week or something the week after that, and I went down to race, and they came down and had a go on the boat, and Seb was hooked straight away, and I think he ended up buying a boat and doing some racing. So it was good fun.
FYI, I made it to Geelong. Didn't quite make it on the water. Had a few little catch-ups to do.
Yeah, there was another guy there as well, a Kiwi guy. I can't remember his name. He came
Probably
out as
Beavis,
well.
Scotty Beavis, I would say.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it was funny just watching those guys having a go at it. But it was that's what it was like in the early days. It was purely just trying to show people what is new in the class and what can be done, and just trying to give as many people a go on the boat as possible to help try and build the class and just show a new way of sailing. Because in the very early days, it wasn't very popular. There was only a minority of us in the Moth class were doing this or were pro foiling, and majority, we're very much against it. And so we had to try and sell the whole concept to the class and other people, and try and get other people on board, because the class was nearly dead at the time.
That's an amazing story in itself. I was just going to touch on the fact we've had a couple of younger kids on the show who, when you ask them, they think foiling's been around forever. They don't even know this whole process or progress that's happened when it all started. Did you think back then that, I mean, you were part of changing the world of sailing? Do you think that you would have seen it come this far in, let's say, 20 years?
Maybe not what it is today, but you could. I mean, I got asked that question back then, I remember, and I thought, this can be applied to other boats for sure. There's no reason why I couldn't, but I didn't know how. I didn't really care. I was just doing it because I loved doing it, and I didn't care what anyone else thought. So I wasn't too concerned about what else could be done at the time, but definitely not to the extent we see today with the AC boats and the Mocha 60s and things like that. It's just like, this is nuts.
The irony to me, mate, like, you talk about the way you promoted and did everything. Like, when I do a lot of research, and I went back and found your old websites, right, where you were clearly doing a lot of work to rebuild the Moth class. Like, there was blogs, and you're sharing information, and this is before foiling, and I found all this stuff. And the irony of the whole thing is, my understanding is, you went through, you grew up sailing, you went to university, and then as you came out of sailing, you were trying to work out what boat to go sailing in, and it was, do I get a laser? And then you chose a Moth because you could buy a Moth for $500, right?
Yeah.
Imagine trying to buy a Moth for $500 these days.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, like sailing sabos, I looked up to the Moth class and people like Andrew Landenberger. And I remember I had a picture of him on the wall, of him sailing. He was actually slipped from the hiking straps and fell out of the boat. And the photograph was taken at the time when he's midair.
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a cool shot. And I just like the whole thing of sailing, single-handed, and the class was just cool. And I love the culture and all that. So I always wanted to get into it. And then, it wasn't, once I got through uni, I couldn't sail much. But the first thing I did, as soon as I finished uni, I went and bought them off. And I paid, actually, I think it was $300 or something like that. And every single time I went out,
so far out, Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
No, I can't remember. It was nothing back at the time. Maybe it was a lot for me at the time, but that's all I could afford. But I just went out at Albert Park Lake every single Saturday, and every time I go out, I'd break something.
Yeah.
And I was just happy just to finish a race back then.
Yeah.
And I had a little goal list that I wrote, and I still have that bit of paper today, just saying all the things that I wanted to achieve. After completing a course, is okay, try and win a race. And then, we just progressed from there. But, the ultimate goal was to be world champion. And
nailed that, tick that box.
Yeah, well, Andrew McDougall and I spoke about this, and maybe it was a year or two after I was into the class, but, he said, oh, yeah, you're going to be world champion one day. And I'm like, oh, really? I really didn't think about it that much. I just loved the sailing, and I loved sailing in the class, and everything about it. I was absolutely hooked. And and then it just sort of went from there. But I didn't know how long it would take. But thing about the class though, the class were very anti-foiling. Brett Burville sort of got into it around the time I got in, around 1999, 2000.
Yep.
And I loved it, and that's sort of he was a big inspiration for me, and I really admire him. And but the class was very anti. And when I got on board, I took on the roles of being like class secretary and developed a new website and for the Australian Association. But I just remember I wanted to promote this cool thing with foils and stuff, but the class came down and said, look, you can't do that. We're not all in agreement of this. I thought, oh, okay. Well, then I'll do my own website, and then I'll put it all on there. And that's how it all sort of happened.
So just for
Brett forward 20 years.
So Brett Burville did the hydrofoils. He pulled them out. So we had Brett on episode 258 from memory. And he's amazing. It was a great discussion. Really enjoyed that discussion. And he brought the hydrofoils out for the 2000 Worlds, and it was a bit hit and miss. He wasn't prepared. He talked about it clearly, but it wasn't the solution that everyone uses now. And that's the difference. You sort of found that different solution. And I should highlight for the listeners that you actually won the Moth Nationals before foiling, right? So you, as you said, you got into the Moths late 90s, and I think you won the Nationals in 2002, 2003.
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but
I can.
Going back to what Brett did, I didn't even know about it at the time when he did it, but it was the class deemed that type or that concept or that configuration of foiling illegal, because we have a rule in the Moth class that says if you look down the boat longitudinally, you can't see any air gaps. And because the boards on the side of the wings, they created an air gap, it was automatically deemed illegal. So then he put his thinking cap on and said, oh, what if you put foils on the bottom of the rudder and centerboard, which made it legal. And one of the cool things he did, for the flap on the rudder, he just got a piano hinge and laminated it in to create the flap, and made and connected a rod to it and made the tiller extension twist. So it angled the flap, and that was revolutionary. That made it.
Absolutely.
And then he did some other cool things as well. Like he put a foil in the middle, sort of to help it lift, and when it cleared the water, it would it would have less foil because I only have a small foil on the bottom. Anyway, he just tried lots of things, but the biggest problem that I think they encountered is getting upwind.
Yep.
And the rigs that we were using, or the class was using at the time, mostly they were very twisty sails. And I'd been working with AMAC, Andrew McDougall, for a while with the KA sails, and I could, even when we were low riding, I could sail 5 degrees higher than everyone else, maybe.
Yep.
And my V&G was just always better, and no one could match me with the old rigs. But anyway, that rig worked. I didn't know it at the time, but worked with the foils. That's what made it all click. So I went over to Perth to try one of Brett's boats that he had a go at after I won my first Nationals, and put my sail on it, and it was like, whoa, okay, this is going to work now, because with the tighter leech.
What was the findings? How did you sort of come to that finding? Obviously, you could do it, but what was the difference?
Well, when you're going to windward, no one, I don't remember anyone doing it at the time, but you couldn't, with the twisty rig, you couldn't lean the boat to windward. The air would just fall out of the top of the rig.
Gotcha.
So with
twisted further as you leant more.
Yeah, it just let all the air out. So with the tight leech that I was sort of I had on our sails, to get more height, you could just lever off that more. So that gave me more confidence to heel the boat to windward. And then when I did that, I could actually get lift off the foils and lift off the rig, and it just all balanced and worked better. And then it just worked. But
it almost would have been keeping. It would have almost been feeding each other, right?
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just knew it worked, and then everyone called it, it's the Veal Heel from then on. But I didn't sort of figure that out until the 2003 Worlds in France. And I literally used those Worlds as an experiment to try and make this thing work. How do I get around a course without crashing? Because Brett had the same problem.
Yep.
And just try and minimize crashes, but try and get upwind faster than a lot of the other guys. Downwind wasn't a problem.
Yep.
It was just upwind. So once I figured that out and I had my rig, it just all clicked. But the big issue in France was jellyfish, just 300, 400 mil wide, just going downwind was just a nightmare.
The old jellyfish, eh?
Yeah, so
part of the union, those things.
I wrote.
They are. They're a nasty union, Viking.
Yeah, I actually wrote on my notes 2003 Worlds. I know you came third there, and that was your first use of the foils. And I wrote hit and miss. So obviously, I must have subconsciously thought of the jellies because you're hitting and missing them all the way downwind. But it wasn't. It was just. I mean, I only had I think I had one or two goes. I went up to Queensland to do a Moth State titles with Scott Babbage. I literally drove from Melbourne to where did we go? Lake Catharba. I picked up Scott along the way in Coffs Harbour, and we sailed for a few days and drove straight home, put the boat in a container and sent it off to France. So I had no practice. So a few days before the Worlds, I just went out and sailed as much as I could to try and learn as much as I could. And then some local guy took a photograph of me foiling really high out of the water, and he came to a welcome dinner that night, and he showed me the photo and go, "Oh, that's cool." He gave me a copy, and that photograph was used all over the world on front covers of magazines, posters, and all sorts of stuff. So that's what really got it going. Yeah.
Say, "Look, this does work. It's cool. It's fun," but still. Back in that time, it was very unpopular in the moth class. Very.
For those,
I can imagine the boatyard talk. Was there little factions? You had your people that were kind of the supporters, and then the non-supporters. Were they quite vocal, or did it get a little bit touchy at times? Well, obviously it did.
Yeah, online and offline. There was physical altercations as well. At times.
Wow.
But I just remember those at the 2003 Worlds. I think Simon Payne was pretty pro. He used to do moth sailing, and he got back into it purely because of what I was doing.
Yep.
And he was there at those Worlds, but I think I was the only one foiling. But it just took some new guys. Mark Robinson, he came into it as well. Adam May and Graham Viles, and we were the core five.
Yep.
That sort of got things going. So the next moth event was the Europeans in Weymouth, I think, and it was just us five, and we still many of the class were very anti-foiling, and but we just sort of persisted, and we just loved it, enjoyed it, and we just shared information, everything we would just share to help each other get better. And try and get others into the class. So what actually happened, we actually attracted new people to the class who were really good sailors, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And
For those that don't know, the foils after the 2000 Worlds, the POMs, that some of those people you're mentioning, the British sailors, they actually bought Brett's foils or boat, I think, and took it back to try and do their own development. So you guys had you had that breakthrough where you got the Veal Heel, as you said, and with the tidal leeches, it was just the other side of the world was trying to find it as well. Is my understanding of it. Is that right? Yeah,
they were developing. Adam May and Graham were working dogether, and were doing their own development with Linton. I can't remember his surname, but anyway, but Simon, myself, and Robbo were working with Fastercraft, and we were just sort of working together to try and come up with a good solution. And John Eilert was very helpful at the time, and just doing anything to try and help us, because he could see the potential as well from a production point of view. But then Brett Burble obviously helped as well develop the rigs, because now we know we had the sails that work with the foils, and AMAC was working on the sails, and yeah, we just all sort of worked together to try and get it. But, the British contingency had their own plan, but in the end, the faster craft package sort of worked well at that time.
Yeah, and the other one that
such a cool story.
Yeah.
It's still early days because it went on from there as well, because then the whole Blade Runner thing started.
Yeah, we'll come to that. So, just to add more depth to it, Scotty Babbage, who you did the training with, now he works for Sail GP now, doing all the data stuff for Sail GP. So I see him there all the time. So we leave him locked up in a little dark container, but he is part of Sail GP. So it's sort of it's continued right through. Before foiling though, mate, and before you won the Nationals, I found some information, and we may have to cut this out, but we may not. I sense you'll be all right with it. I think it was the Nationals, the 01-02 Nationals in Australia. You want to talk about Heat 10 and the change to the sailing instructions? Do you remember back to that one?
I think I know what you're referring to, but yeah, it was at that time the Nationals were at Lake Munmora.
That's the one.
It was a really good vibe. Yeah, everyone had a lot of fun, and I don't know where it all started, but Steve Donovan had this idea of making some cock jocks out of monofilm.
Yep.
And
you're onto it.
And he actually made some, and then I think there was a change to sailing instructions there. The race 10, everyone's got to wear monofilm cock jocks while racing.
This is a class rebuilding. That's the sort of stuff you
ensure all seam stick is covered. Just
he actually made some, and then I got dared on the presentation night to wear them, and I think I did, and did a nudie run wearing them.
Yep.
And then, I just remember there was something about there that he could hear the slicing of the groin while the sides of the monofilm cock jocks, blood flying everywhere and all this sort of stuff. But it was pretty funny, a funny time. I mean, even some other things like AMAC, he didn't even unrig his boat the whole regatta. He just left it rigged and tipped over on the side. And then one other night, we rigged up some guy's boat inside the hall and just did stupid things. And I remember reading a lot about that stuff in the Moth class back in, early times, where I think the Moth class was actually banned from RQ because they hoisted a boat up the flagpole and burnt it. There's all these stories I kept hearing, and I loved it. I was like, this is cool. And that Nationals was another one like that, where we got up to some stupid stuff.
Well, I mean,
you touched on it earlier, Rohan, with the culture. I guess that was the start of it. Do you think it's similar to that now, or has it just become really professional?
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot. It's like, well, I mean, when I got into class, it was pretty secretive. No one was giving out information about how to go faster and do that. I mean, to a certain extent, but it was pretty closed. And the New South Wales guys were always the best. And, I was from Victoria and we were seen as the underdog. So it was just AMAC and I, basically. And, but yeah, I didn't like that. I like to be more open, fun, sharing type things. So I tried to change that culture, and that's what we did. But then it got serious because it was so competitive, and there was, pro sailors coming on board, and it was, I don't know. I haven't really been involved much for a while now, but it's, from what I'm hearing, it's very expensive, and there's little groups doing their own development, and you won't know how they're going to go until the world's happen, I suppose.
At what point, given all the hard work and the vision that you had, at what point did it click to the next level where it was accepted that everyone's going to go foiling, and then you saw all those pros come in?
Well, I think by 2004 it still wasn't fully accepted and adopted. It wasn't until the 2005 Worlds at Black Rock in Melbourne. I think it was like every regatta, we basically doubled our numbers or something like that. So I think we had 15 foiling at those Worlds. And it still was a bit, there's the foilers and sea huggers and or low riders, whatever you called them back then. And, and that was a derogatory term. It was the low riders was the more acceptable term that you can use. But
Speed hugger.
anyway, but for those worlds, I ended up winning all the races, and one of them was by a huge margin, and that was
17
only
minutes.
after that world. Yeah, I think it was one of those races. It was pretty big.
On top of your head.
And then it wasn't until that was finished, everyone goes, "Yep, okay, it's on." But this just gives you an idea of what it was like after the last race of the world. I remember myself, Robbo, Adam, Simon, and it might have been one other. We stayed out after the last race for the worlds for another hour because everyone wanted to have a go on the boat. So they came out in ribs, or maybe they were on their boat, and we go, yeah, sure, go, and let them have a go. And they're like, that
would have been a change. That would have been a game changer.
Oh, it was. And I remember AMAC came out. AMAC was just like, he was helping me develop these sails. And now he's only ever made one sail in his life with me, ever. And he did it with me. It was a Moth sail. And I don't know if that's true, but that's what he told me at the time. He never makes them. But anyway, he came out and had a go. And he's like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. And he didn't believe me. I kept telling him, you've got to try this. It's so cool. And it wasn't until then he was like, yeah, okay, I see what you mean now. Okay, I'm in. I'm back. And that was like his 5th comeback. But yeah, I reckon at least 10 guys, maybe more, that had a go that hadn't had a go before, and they were sold straight away. So then the next Worlds was in Denmark, and then the majority were foiling. There was only a few lowriders. It was just consensus from then on. And then I think it wasn't until the 2007 Worlds in Italy, that's when it was like, yeah, it was full on. Like everyone was there. There was no lowriders, and that was it.
Is it true, whether this is myth or not, but in some of those races you get towed up onto the foil and then to going upwind instead of, was it very early foiling tacks, or you jibe going upwind to stay on the foils?
No, we could never get towed in. It was too difficult. We did try, but it wasn't possible. But
we'll leave it as a myth then. That was good though.
Yeah, I mean, there was some. Yeah, I remember it was at the Denmark Worlds. It was very light, and like 5 to 10, and going upwind, you're just doing huge zigzags across the course. And I'm thinking to myself, and I did experiment with this in the previous nationals. Okay, I'm like going way out in the fly here. If I tack and get off the falls, I'm fucked. What do I do? And I'm thinking, I can jibe in the falls, but into a like 270-degree turn. I can do that and keep foiling. And I did it. I'm like, holy shit, this works. And I'm going back across doing, doing 15 knots, or maybe 12 or something. But it's better than doing 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So BMG was way better. And I thought, wow, this works, but only in certain circumstances. And I remember in that Worlds, I did it a few times, and some people saw and they go, holy shit, you jibed like 270 degrees and kept going. That's unbelievable. And it was hard to do. And if you had to nail it, if you didn't, it didn't work. But
all over.
It didn't last too long, because by the next Worlds, we were starting the full tack by 2007. And that was a big change. Was it a
progress of technology that enabled the foil tack, or was it just techniques that you got better and better at it? I mean, there's obviously progression in technology, but
a bit of both. It was more like just committed to pure speed, just throw the tiller over and just run to the other side as quick as possible. But the boat had to be vertical. As soon as you had any heel, leeward or windward heel, it would just the wind would hit the water and it was all over. But you need a lot more lift on the front foil and the rudder to do it as well. But it's more about momentum and speed through the tack just to get it round. And yeah, I mean, I remember AMAC and we were just practicing that, because if you could do it, it was huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, you're just changing the game, and it's just all taken for granted now. But that's just the nature of the sport, like things evolve. And
that's the point I wanted to make, Jay. That's the point I wanted to make earlier. It is taken for granted.
But as that happens through everything. Like our sport evolves, and you just got to be that person doing the evolution. And obviously you're in the right place with the right time. It was just circumstance determined. Obviously personality as well, like you're pretty thorough in everything you do. That's evident. And that, as you said, the '05 Worlds, it was all fence posts, and as 2 minutes to 17-minute win margins. But in Garda, and that was your home waters as well, so that was probably a good thing and fantastic to win in your home waters. Couldn't be anything better. But then in Garda, which is also one of the great places to sail, and I would imagine a falling moth would be just paradise in Garda. That was, as you said, everyone was doing it, but you still had big winning margins because I think you had everyone was crashing. There was a lot of crashes downwind, I think, and you weren't.
Yeah.
I think that was different.
Yeah. Well, that year, because in 2006, Simon won and I got second by a point. And I was I was so bummed. But I had a really bad knee accident and it did hurt me a little bit. But Simon his preparation was flawless, and I was I've got to do better next year. So I made sure of it. After those Worlds, I just concentrated on getting much fitter. I was running and more just bringing up my fitness and just minimizing errors. And then work with AMAC on the boat because we had the Blade Riders then. So he was developing that, and I was helping with the rigs, just kept fine-tuning. But then I spent a lot of time practicing, a lot, and just trying to do, and especially in high winds, because the light winds, everyone was sort of good then and moderate especially, but in the high winds, everyone struggled, especially downwind. And if the waves picked up, it was just wild. It was really, really difficult. And I just practiced a lot, and I went to Garda, in April before the Worlds and practiced a bit. Didn't help them that much, but I think that year my goal was to never lose a race. And I didn't. I won every single race I ever went into, and that was the goal, I suppose, just to try to be better. And one race at the Garda Worlds, it was freezing cold and really windy. It was 20, 25 knots, gusting 28 maybe, and the race was borderline being called off. But they raced us, and I did a port tack start, I think, and got a decent lead, and it just got windier and windier, and I just kept the boat upright downwind. I had the blinkers on and just looking forward and made sure the boat, I was in my mind, sail for the highest water, because as soon as you sail into a trough, the boat would pitch and catapult. So, and I was stalling the rig and just using a lot of technique just to get downwind without crashing. And then by the third lap, we'll look up, and there's Scott. He's in second place, I think, or third. So I'd lapped, caught up to him in second place. And he's like, what the hell are you doing?
Wow.
But yeah, back in those days too, there was such a big difference between first and last. If you got lapped, then that was your last lap. You didn't have to go around again. So by the time I'm getting to the finish, people were waiting there, the boat capsized, waiting for me to come to the finish line. And as soon as I crossed
they didn't have to do another lap.
Yeah, because they didn't want to do another lap.
And
a lot of people did that.
Wow.
Because they save energy.
Wow.
And they go, oh, thank God I don't have to go around again in that shit, because it was pretty wild.
I got to say, though, that you're talking about that race, freezing cold water, choppy seas, like big seas, windy. Port Phillip Bay, that's a good training ground for you there.
Exactly. And I felt comfortable. And that was the whole thing, just train in the worst conditions, the most difficult conditions, and then everything else is easy. And there's a lot of really good sailors that came from Black Rock, Arthur Brett as well, a lot of OK World Champions as well, came through there, and that sort of helped inspire me as well. Lindsay Irwin's another one, sub 14. So, they always said to me, oh, you never beat us, we're quicker than you type thing. Oh, we'll see about that. And that gave me a challenge. Okay, and try and beat them. And then okay, I've beaten you guys. Now how much can I beat you by? One leg, then it's 2 legs, and then 3 legs. It's like, so I've just had, these little goals to try and do better and better. But I've still got that bit of paper that I had with these goals to try and win a world championships, and all these little goals in between. And it certainly did help for sure.
I found on your old website, mate, I found a quote from George Bernard Shaw that you had on the site. Do you remember that one?
No, what else? What was it?
Progress is impossible without change, and people who cannot change their minds cannot change anything.
Yeah, I do remember that now.
I love it. Do you look at like obviously you stepped out of the class and you're doing other things, but do you look at the way the class has gone? You know, we've seen, you know, the Burlings and Tom and everybody, Dylan, all these guys that are steering the America's Cup boats are using the Moth class as their pathway, you know, and that you know, all the Sail GP guys, that everyone's using the Moth, and the Moth is basically, whether it's the apprenticeship or it's the proving ground or it's the training ground, I don't know. But do you look at some of the level of some of these sailors now and just think, holy shit?
Yeah, I remember when that started. It was a Nationals, I think it was 2006, can't remember, somewhere in Lake Macquarie, and Scott and I were coming back, and Scott and I was like, look, we've got to get some of the good guys onto this class. You know, it was Nathan, Goods, Tom, and I can't remember who else. I think maybe John Harris was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we arranged to meet them up at somewhere at Lake Macquarie and said, look,
I remember
I'll have
that.
my boat there. Go out and have a go. And they went out and they're like, holy shit. You know, that's when, you know, we sort of got them hooked. We go, good. We got you guys, you know, now you got to get a boat because we want you guys to get out there and race. And they did. And Matt Belcher was another one. I remember he ordered a boat because he missed out going to the Olympics in 2004. And he was pretty bummed. Maybe it was 2008. It was 2008. And he was pretty bummed about it. And he got him off. And I said, I'll come and help you. So I came up to RQ and rigged the boat. He was meticulous in his preparation. But the first day he went out, he did a foiling job on his first attempt, and I'm like, holy shit, you know. He's
Here they come.
Yeah, I never saw that from anyone else. But that was our goal. Like, it was mainly Scott and myself. We were just working on all these, you know, good sailors, thinky sailors who are a bit younger than us, who are up and coming, to try and get them into the class because we wanted the class to grow and become better. And it was probably not until, I can't remember which worlds this was, but it was down in Sorrento, maybe 2009 or something like that. And there was 160 something boats down there. Everyone was there. You know, people like Glenn Ashby. I thought, oh, we're never going to get him. But I remember on that, you talked about it. At this, there was a Tornado Nationals at where was it? Summers, and I went out there and Glenn hopped on the boat and had a go, and he was like screaming like a schoolgirl, and he was like, what is this? So that was a turning point. And we just worked on one guy at a time and just slowly got them in, and now it's sort of seemed accepted. It just refines your skills, I think, because everything's happening way faster. You don't have to think about, you know, just the yaw of the boat. You've got to think about pitch and altitude. So you've got to think more three-dimensionally, and it just sharpens your skills a hell of a lot more. And, you know, we were even back in the days, I remember foiling blindfolded. We were just doing it to see, and it's so difficult because you've got to know the senses are different. You know, you can do it on a normal dinghy, but just not foiling, it's hard. But anything to just sharpen those skills. And I think when you get on any other boat, it feels like this is easy.
Yeah, right.
So I think that was the advantage. You know, the guys in New Zealand, the same thing. They just, you know, they're all selling 49ers, but it was just a good, good platform to have fun on. You weren't limited by, you know, Olympic rules and things like that. We could just, you know, just have fun. That was the most important thing. And then, I remember. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, no, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say it was. I think it was a World Sailor of the Year awards, and Ernesto Bertarelli was there, and he came up and talked to me about what I was doing, and he loved it. And he goes, "Oh, mate, this is awesome. I love what you're doing. We want this in the cup. You know, this is awesome." He goes, and the photo taken, he goes, "Oh, don't let Larry see that. He's going to be pissed." At the time, that was the goal. They wanted to get this in the AC. And I thought, this is cool. You know, that'd be awesome. I didn't know how it would work and stuff, but when they did the cup in Bermuda and they were on the Cats, I think, or was it San Fran, or wherever it was.
San Fran,
they were falling downwind, but they couldn't get falling upwind.
That's
upwind,
San Fran.
It was just Yeah, it was San Fran. And I remember the time, and I was looking at the rigs and I'm going, just twisting too much. Once they learn how to tighten those leeches, they'll get foiling upwind. And that's exactly what they did. They learned how to do it while racing and they got foiling upwind. You know, it was a game changer.
Love it. Hey, Rowan, I was going to say, all this work that you did, obviously, with that core group to get everyone into the class, at what point did you realise you actually shot yourself in the foot and you were, these kids had come in and gone, oh, well, and you were kind of like,
young bastards.
Young pricks come in and you just...
No, I didn't care at all. I thought it was good. I didn't.
Right,
I wasn't. I was being very selfless. I'd won 2 worlds by then, and I didn't care. I was happy to win 1. So, I don't know. At the time, I didn't care. In 2008, I actually took the year off. I just go, I've done what I wanted to do. I'm not motivated anymore. You know, I need something else. So my goal then was to help others come into the class, and I ended up coaching, everyone to try and make them better because there was such a big gap at the time. I felt like I had to bring other people up to bring them up and just make them better. And that's what I did. And I enjoyed it. I don't regret it at the time. And because I could see the benefit, like globally.
No, it definitely paid off. There's no question. No question there. It's paid off.
That's understating it because let's think about it. Like, kids have got little boats that they train on now that aimed at young kids. The America's Cup, there's foiling maxis, there's the wing foiling, there's the windsurfing. It's just changed the game. Like the whole concept of sailing has changed, and it comes back to a bit of experimenting. If you were getting a royalty on foils, Rowan, you'd be pretty happy.
I was going to say the word foil, yeah.
So, I remember at the time there was, when the whole Blade Rider thing started, the CEO of the company wanted to put a patent in for it. And I was like, whoa, I don't know about that. I don't feel comfortable because we didn't create it.
Yeah.
John Eilert and Brett Burwell, they were the guys that sort of created the idea, the concept. But then they're like, well, we just sort of worked off what others are doing. And this goes back, I remember talking to a guy, this is in the 1970s. He was the first guy to make a moth foil. And he had a photo of it at Hazelwood Pondage. And it was a weird contraption, but he was the first.
Yeah.
But then you can go back even further, Graham Alexander Bell and, where do you start? And so, there was a talk about having a patent on foils, but I didn't think it was right. And I do know actually, I don't know if it's true or not, but Hugh Wellburn did get a patent put through on foils for keelboats or something like that. And
for the Quant 28.
What's that?
Probably for the Quant 28.
Yeah, I don't know the details. I just heard it, but I mean, I was sort of out then, and I don't know. Someone could have made a lot of money, I suppose, and someone probably has. But the problem is the game's always changing, and I knew that at the time in Moss. You get 3 to 5 years out of a boat design if you're lucky, and there's always someone else that's more motivated to do something better, and you just got to ride it at the time and be on that next wave and be on the right one, because there's always 3 or 4 other options at the time, but only one comes good.
Speaking of which, are you staying in touch with the current developments within the class and where it's going in the discussions?
Not really at all. I just sort of follow what's on Facebook, and I know there's a lot of talk about the costs that are involved in being right at the top of the class now, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow, so, it's insane.
Yeah, there's talk about trying to limit this somehow. There's always been talk about that, limiting foils, and you just got to let it go, because if you restrict it, then who knows what's going to happen.
There's no innovation.
Yeah, if you can't afford it, there's other classes now to sort of jump in. I mean, the Wasp is a great example, but there's even other classes out there. If you want to go foiling, you can go and do that sort of stuff. And
well,
I don't know if I'd ever get back, but you never know.
Yeah, well, there's other things. So what are you doing now? I mean, I know what you're doing, but what are you doing now?
Well, I moved up to Brisbane and started getting back into triathlons again. So over the last few years, I've been training and racing quite a lot. But I had a pretty bad bike accident recently.
Yeah, saw that. How's the recovery coming along?
Yeah, it's pretty slow and painful. I cracked my skull and had pretty bad concussion and a lot of implications from the medicines they were giving me at the time. But anyway, I'm over that. The shoulder's slowly healing and could be months before I'm swimming again. But I missed a number of national world titles and tries, and I'm trying. My goal is to try and compete at the next Worlds in October. So I'm just trying to do that. I'm very determined. I'm so pissed off that this accident happened. It's motivating me more now to try and be better.
Good on you.
So that's on a, yeah, I don't really sail much, but I still working in the industry. I import yachts down in Victoria, and now just taking on another brand called Exodus Catamarans up in Queensland. So I'm importing them. I just ordered one of those for next year, and it's not a race boat or anything. It's a cruiser, but it's a really nice fast cruiser, and I don't know, I might sail.
The one for you, Jay.
Look pretty good out the front of your house, Jordan.
Yeah, I do know the boat quite well. It is actually a nice boat for you, Mr. Spencer.
Well, I'm going to go and see Rohan next weekend, mate, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll be at Century Cove, so we'll have a 14 on display with Mika from Flagstaff. But yeah, apparently these boats go pretty quick. They clocked 18 knots on them. So for a cruising boat, it's pretty good.
Yeah, well,
just while serving the roast dinner.
That's
perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Glass of Shardy in hand.
Yeah, while it's air conditioned in the saloon.
Yeah, there we go.
All that.
Darling, would you mind jibing? I've just got to crack this bottle of port open.
You know what? That's exactly what it should be like, BP. I tell you, that's all I think about.
I know.
It's just great.
I know that's all you think about.
Oh, look, we'll get a race boat out, and I've got a few ideas I've come up this week, but we'll get a race boat out and still do some shit hot racing. We'll go and destroy someone in the double handers or something.
There you go.
But yeah, I get it, Ron, and it's business for you, obviously. So that element of the world is different. And you know what? Every form of sailing's a good form of sailing, in my view. As long as people are out there sailing, I think, they're in a happy place. Unless they don't know how to sail and get themselves in trouble. But it is, the more people go sailing, the happier I am. That's what Barkarati exists for. So good on you for that.
Yeah.
So what's that? 38. That's 38 South Yacht Sales. That's you, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've got 38 South Boat Sales as well. It's just it's a powerboat business where we do new brokerage and stuff.
And I mean, like that commitment. Do you must have some interesting conversations with people. Do you get, like, you've got some old cruiser like myself thinking, I'm going to buy a cruising boat, and then they go, hang on, are you the Moth guy? Have you had that conversation a few times?
Yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah, it's especially a lot of old yachties and stuff. And we get people who have had powerboats get into yachts. We have yachties go in powerboats and get a bit of everything. But some people still recognise the name, but I kept a pretty low profile, so people don't recognise my face. And I like that. I didn't like too much. I didn't like being on the camera too much. But I was purely, anything I did was to try and develop sailing and foiling and moths, and that was the main goal. I wasn't in it for myself.
Well, you can tick that box.
Stamp that as done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested though, Rohan, with your background and, the work in the industry and the fact that you've obviously refocused to triathlon, which is fine. Every yachty goes through that phase. You'll come back. What
do they?
Well, except for you, BP. I mean, except for you, but a whole bunch do, I can assure you. What racing do you watch? Like, are you looking at the Cup? Are you looking at like Maxis, or are you looking at the Hobart, or dinghy stuff? Is there any sailing you watch?
Yeah, I definitely watched the AC. I mean, I was over in Barcelona. I loved it. I thought it was just cool, and plus a lot of the guys I used to race with helming. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
All the top AC guys, they're all in the helm, and they're the top AC sailors. it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Dylan Fletcher is a classic example that he's, he had that goal and he's just worked his way up and he had to prove himself. And when he got on the helm, the British bloke just sailed better. So he just had some sort of instinct or knack there and just got it going.
We vote for you should be on royalties, basically, Rowan. We should put whip the hat around royalties.
Yeah, every American.
At least kids falling and.
No, I don't care about that. I just like seeing where it's gone and to catch up with the guys who are still doing it and seeing where they're going. And I'm really happy for them.
Good on you.
Nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's I mean, it's an amazing story, mate. Like, it really is. Like, I think a lot of people that will tune into this episode, I reckon it'll get shared a lot simply because you've fleshed out so many details, and I think a lot of stuff is forgotten. We remember it because we watched it happen, but you actually provide all that context. I'm a bit scared of anybody coming out with some monofilm budgie smugglers if they make a resurgence. I could see Bicey's Maxi Crew team suddenly popping one of those out, but like it is an amazing story, and the fact that so much has changed in our sport. It must be. I don't know if you'd stay awake at night thinking about it, but one day you should, because it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't really dwell on the past. I'm only looking forward to what my current goals are, and I want to win a world championships in triathlon. So that's the main goal. I don't really tell anyone about it, but
well, you've still got your list. So
yeah, well, I've got a new list, and it's not a bit of paper; it's on an electronic, checklist now. But I'm slowly working through that list, and every tick, is what I care about, just getting that next goal. But I really like the bike. I'm quite good at it too. I don't know why. I've always liked bikes, but I look at a bike as a boat.
Yep.
And especially the front end of the bike. And we've been developing some carbon fiber armrest for the time trial bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working with a composites engineer, and he's just from yachts sailing, and he knows his stuff too. And these things are awesome. And I wanted to set for myself, but other people are seeing it go, that is cool. I want some as well. So we're starting selling them all over the world now. But I look at a lot of these top and even pro triathletes and just look at it and go, they don't understand aerodynamics and hydrodynamics. And for me, it's obvious, a lot of these things. And I just don't get it. But I understand it's hard to understand it for them. But it's little things are very obvious to me, and you can make such a gain aerodynamically. You can save minutes
on the front end of your bike.
Course.
Yeah, there's no question.
On any part of the bike, just making all these little changes and just say, I don't put out a lot of power. I'm not nowhere near as good as a lot of these other top guys I race in my age group in Australia, but I'm way more efficient, and I can ride faster than a lot of these guys and just put out less power just purely because I'm just more aerodynamic.
So what distance are we targeting for the Worlds?
This is just Olympics. So it's a 1.5K swim, 40K ride, 10K run.
Yeah, the Olympic distance. Yep. So that sort of plays more to your swimming strength. Obviously.
I've always been a good swimmer, so that does help. It's a longer swim than normal. My running's my weakness, but I've been working on that a lot recently, so I'm getting that down pretty good. I've just got to get below 4-minute Ks.
Oh,
that's the goal.
I can teach you how to do that.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah,
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Won't take you long.
No. That's cool. All right, man. Like it's. I think we'll leave it there. I think that has been a pretty interesting discussion, and obviously the focus is pretty amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, mate. And I reckon you'll look forward to meeting my wife, because she ran a whole lot quicker than sub 4-minute K. She was really quick on the run. She would win marathons and all sorts. So
it's just the older you get, though, the harder it is. So just, I don't know. I've just got to do the best I can. But
don't forget to take your checkbook, Jay.
No. Actually, my wife, I remember she won a half Ironman as a pro, and one of the woman that was the fastest bike triathlete in the world was setting the fastest bike times was against her, and my wife put nearly 30 minutes into her on the bike. My wife was a freak on the bike. She was so strong. So I think you'll enjoy meeting my wife more than me next week. You'll be impressed.
Well, you're not taking the dividends from Baccarati to buy us a new catamaran, Jordan?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a great idea. We need to make money out of Baccarati, and we could get the Baccarati boat. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And we just got to meet each other at the boat every week to do the podcast.
Part of the fleet.
Stand by, Rowan. We might be future clients, mate. We'll just have to make money from our show.
Come up to RQ when I get the boat, and next year if you want.
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, I just love how we come up with ideas on the spot like that, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Cool, mate.
All right.
Awesome, Rowan. Mate, big thanks what you've done for yachting.
Yeah.
And yachting in general, and
absolutely.
everything that we browsing through our Instagram or Facebook, everything you see now, people are falling, and mate, hats off.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely,
Appreciate
mate.
Big part of that.
Well done.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the call and the thoughts. It's humbling, but yeah, I don't know. I don't look at it from a personal point of view. I just look at it more from, how can others benefit from this, and trying to make the sport better and trying to make it grow. And that's been the real motivation at the end of the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Job done, Tick.
Love it. Geez, that was a good chat. I was really keen to have this conversation, and it turned out unreal. But my memory I remember all this when Rowan emerged, and I remember the magazine articles and just tearing it apart. And I remember that moth with that aggressive prawn moth logo it had down the side. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember that, but
yeah, I remember that. I remember there was a group of Ronstand photos that came out as well.
Oh, mate, AMAM must be
AMAM.
Rowan should be welcome every night of the week for a roast dinner at AMAM.
For the promotion
He's
for Ronstand.
brought.
Do you reckon AMAM and AMAC get together and get confused?
Definitely.
Yeah.
At the AMAC convention. One thing you get from that discussion is he's a very humble man, and he said, he said he didn't do it for himself, and he didn't do it for anything other than the development of yachting, which is a really interesting point to make, because there's other people like that. Remember, we had Robbie Nash on. He was kind of similar. Yeah. He was doing it just for sailing, just to get better at sailing. And I think, that's
exactly.
Yeah. And I often say, what's going to happen next? I'm bored. What's going to happen next? But it does keep happening. There's these little things that keep happening. Is there another big twist coming? Who knows?
Well, the irony of the whole thing is he was winning by such margins that he could have grabbed the Radix, right? You go to anywhere meal.
Had some Radix on the rail.
Because it's ready in minutes. And he could have had whole Radix meal between races with it before the second finished. Is just there.
Well, the way he was
if
sailing,
he wasn't lapping them,
around the
of
track.
course.
Yeah. I mean, it's
the way he was sailing. He could have had it around the track.
Yeah, it's a great way to refuel during a tough day of sailing. So or if you're in the gym or the office, all sorts of things. So, but yeah, if you Rowan, if you want some Radix, just jump onto Radix Nutrition's website and use Baccarati as a discount code. You'll get a discount on us. Did you like that one, boys?
Oh, good one.
That was one of the better segues,
mate. Yeah, Triple M calling. Hey, Jordan, can you do our segues from now on?
Yeah.
Segway manager.
Okay, I'm going this week. So events that are going on this week. There's so much going on. Every pro in Europe is just chock-a-block. Especially last weekend, they were busy. Like the 44s, the Dragons, the Maxis. Everything's happening. Next week, Enoshima, it's got Olympic week happening in Japan. the Maxi Europeans have started. They're going this week, so we'll get into that in a sec. But boys, we've almost got a bit of a funny one this week with all our Jack Lloyd listeners of the week. Now, our friends at Vycobi each month provide $200 Aussie worth of Vycobi kit. You can go online and order whatever you want. Of course, most of you will be rushing online to get the UV tops, those amazing Barcarati UV tops, which are very, very cool, great value. But there's a theme this week of a lot of people have sent us stuff in over Messenger over the years, and I sort of ignore it. I mean, I never really pull it to the show, but I thought I might pull some of the Messenger ones out from this week because there was quite a few. I don't know if you've seen that, boys, but we got Bryce Edwards sent in a thing on Messenger. He sent a link to an article called "Your Bonkers and the Rainbow Class." Did you boys have a read of that?
Yep.
So that's on the May Afloat magazine. And
Bring back the rainbow, hashtag.
Yep. And the return of the rainbow. And so there's a whole article. Bicey, you're a game changer. You've brought Crocs back. You're the Rohan Veal. Yep. You are the Rohan Veal of Crocs and Crocs. Rainbows.
As I've said previously, I could die happy right now, knowing that I've done that and contributed to the world of yachting.
The work you've done, Bicey, is outstanding.
It's true. It's true. But so, Bryce, we're very grateful for that. And BP, your words that you just said, the work you've done is outstanding, apply to Steve Branner, who sent us a messenger.
Stevie.
Did you see that one, BP? Magic Carpet E getting re-stepped this morning in Palmer with the help of a little legend. And there's Bicey. I'm not sure who you work for in those photos, Bicey.
No, I was trying to work it out. I couldn't work it out.
What, the Southern Spars logo on the hat or my T-shirt gave it away?
That's it. That's exactly right. All over here. But so doing a bit of work on the new Magic Carpet, which is one of your competitors at the moment. So
correct, but we can talk a little bit about it. But just the circumstances actually surrounding the re-stepping of the Magic Carpet rig. Basically, there was a light altercation on the start line of Palmer Vale.
I saw that
a few weeks ago.
Saw that.
And there was some rigging damage due to the clash of vessels.
Yes.
So get this for a short timeline. The rig comes out on the Saturday, incident on the Friday. End fittings of the Aero 6 ring gets cut off, flown to Sri Lanka, a whole new set of side rigging, re-stepped. Exactly 7 days later.
Wow.
So basically everyone out there, that's not a normal thing.
No, after sale service.
Don't think that's going to happen.
Don't expect
tomorrow.
That's going to happen all the time. But good news is it's on the start line and she took part in the little overnighter we just did. So
we'll come back to that.
Phenomenal boat. Yep,
I want to hear how it went, but we're going to come back to that. The next one's James. I think it's James Jamison. He sent us on Messenger as well. Jamo.
Yep.
I reckon it's some footage from. I married an axe murderer. So I think I married an axe murderer. I don't know if you guys remember that film with Mike Myers, and the scene with the kid, the orange haired fuzzy hair kid in front of he kept putting his head in front of the TV, and he's going, he looks like an orange on a toothpick. He's got a huge noggin. And he said that, and I don't know who that was directed to in this team.
Have you got a new soundbite, Jordan Spencer?
Huge noggin. I'm not going orange on a toothpick. You can stick that one.
No, that's a good one, Dickie Knee. Or orange on a toothpick.
Yeah, Dickie Knee. Nice. I like what you did there. Then we got a really nice email this week. Probably, I do want to probably read this a little long, but I do want to sort of pull this one forward. Are you guys, you happy if I read that? This is from Nick McElwee.
It's story time, Bicey.
It is story time.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just
I'll speak
go through it.
Yeah. Long time listener, first time emailing. Like to shout out his wife, Narissa. A lot of our partners get introduced to sailing. Narissa was dragged along to New Year's Eve in a different state each year. Begrudgingly, she would, year after year, accept she was shore crew to my dinghy campaigns. managed to get her on board for a handful of non-sailing friends on Dad's 31-foot yacht on Wednesday twilights out of Port Dalrymple Yacht Club in northern Tasmania on the Tamar River estuary, which is beautiful. Along with my sailing obsession and my friends, my wife's enjoyment of the challenges, enjoyment of the team sport, we made the decision to buy a 35-foot hick, now called Honey Pot. Since then, in 2020, we've successfully finished 2 launch sessions to Hobarts. 2 crew have now completed 2 Sydney Hobarts. And Narissa is now the Vice Commodore of our yacht club. Wow. She's going to have to buy a Defender soon.
I could probably claim a little bit of Commodoreship as well.
Yes. She's going to definitely be getting a Defender. I can see that happening.
Her latest claim is the 3 Hummock Island yacht race with the inaugural yacht race run in November last year. Completing the race in what was challenging conditions. It's now accepted for a qualifier for the Hobart. Again, this November, it's on. Following the Melbourne to Devonport. And this is an email in appreciation to my wife for accepting sailing into her life, thriving from it, my friends, crews, and their enthusiasm on the boat and around the yacht club, and our Port Dalrymple Yacht Club for being so welcoming towards our new members. P.S. Special mention to Glenn Myler for co-skippering alive in the Melbourne to Osaka. Yeah, good point. They did pretty well. Looking forward to many hours.
Great, yep.
Wow. Jesus, Nick. Hey, Nick, you are a player.
That's like buying flowers for your wife, that letter.
I do believe I responded to that and just said, awesome story, well done. And so that was a good story, 100%.
You're in the shit now with all your mates down the yacht club.
Yeah.
Putting something like that out. It's like buying flowers.
Exactly. He's using Barkarati for the romance in his life.
As a platform. Well, you know.
Yeah, well, that's how we roll.
One wouldn't have thought romance.
I do want to throw out one little thought, though, that next time romantic time's happening, I just wonder...
New segment?
Romance with Barkarati.
I'm going to suggest that perhaps Narissa's thinking about us and not you, Mick. That's all I just want to say. Too far?
Yeah, right.
Too far. Sorry, mate.
Sorry. Too much information.
Another one we got sent, and I think you guys will probably enjoy this for the listeners, so I'll give it a plug, is Stom Stuckberry. He's got a YouTube channel, a bit of sailing, and he obviously doesn't mind doing a bit of backyard bodging, and he's got himself a 12-foot skiff, and he put he did an ep called Sailing the World's Craziest Sailboat in a Volcano, 12-foot skiff, episode 2. Great. I thought, you beauty. One of my mates, make sure you watch this. So I did, jumped on and had a watch. And just after the 5-minute mark, he talks about Barkarati. He's just saying he's on his long drive and the Barkarati, switched on Barkarati, the sailing podcast. So thanks for the call out, Tom. Bit of a return favour for you there, my friend. He is having a bit of fun with 12
foot. It's a very cool. It's a very cool video. And this is true. I don't remember the address, Jay. You might want to pass it on. But listeners out there, you want to have a little look at a nice story. It's a cool story and done well.
Yeah, it does do it well. It's actually really good. He's done a whole bunch of stuff, but so Sailing the World's Craziest Sailboat in a Volcano, 12-foot skiff, episode 2 is what he's titled it. So if you search any of that on YouTube, you should find
episode 2, you should find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Sailing in a Volcano. Yeah, it'll come up.
Anyway, so that's the ones that I wanted to launch out for this week. There was some pretty good. So doing the messenger stuff was good, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, Jay.
Love hearing from the listener.
Yeah, we do. Cheers at barkarati.com is the standard place to reach us. But any way you get to us is
someone good. Does win $200 worth of Icobi. Remember that.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Each month.
It's hot time with Bice.
At last. It's been so long.
I laugh only because I'm in a hotel room and it's not on headphones, just on speaker. And I can hear the cleaners just walking out the front door, past the door. And I'm sure they can hear, feeling hot. What the hell's going on in there? 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, good on you. All right.
Speaking of, I'm actually in Sorrento, across from Naples, the new home or the waters of the America's Cup.
Gee, that's a
gents,
beautiful part of the
announced this week.
Speaking of volcanoes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
crazy taxi drivers.
Mount Vesuvius in the background.
Yes.
Well, I've got to. You obviously saw that news. Was this on your radar at all?
Yep.
Naples.
Oh no! Did we know it was coming?
Wasn't on mine.
I didn't know it was coming. No one was telling me. So,
yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, I had some comms earlier in the week that Naples was on the list, along with Greece, somewhere in Greece, and then there you go. Next morning, it's announced Naples. But
there you go.
Based on, I'm pretty excited about that. There'll be a cup in Italy is going to be epic.
Yes. Agreed.
Fans rumored to be potentially 2 teams. We definitely know there's one.
Yep.
Maybe a second Italian team.
Yep.
Luna Rossa.
Despite everything else going on, I mean, and it's quite a bit of chat here, obviously, with all the pros and what's happening with the cup and teams pulling out and what are the rumours.
Right.
But in 2027, we'll forget about all of that, and there'll be 5 or 6 teams, and it'll be pretty epic.
Yeah. We'll be all on.
Most
we'll be all
on.
Focusing on the event again. Loving it.
Yeah.
Well, Dodds was throwing a bit of poo around this yesterday, saying that Alinghi is still recruiting, even though they've said they're out of the cup. He's saying Alinghi is still recruiting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Recruiting for the British
throwing
team.
A bit of poo around. Throwing a bit of poo around. I love your comment there, Joe. Throwing a bit of poo around.
Yeah.
So, if the final race was held yesterday in the Bay of Naples, she would have been all on. Plenty of breeze.
You look tired, my friend.
I mean, we did.
Plenty of breeze, yeah. So, started it was the Trey Golfy, part of the Trey Golfy regatta, 150 miler. Started Friday with pretty much, you'd say, all the minus 1 or 2, but of all the top tier Grand Prix boats in the world were here.
Yeah.
You'd look down the dock, you've got the V Racing, you've got the Scallywaggers, you've got a bunch of 72s, Bellamentes, Proteuses, Jolts, like it's bloody good. It's definitely worth looking at the entry list and seeing who's there, who are here basically for the Maxi Association Europeans, which we start the inshore stuff tomorrow. Proud to say, gents, the mighty Galatea took the win.
What a performance, boss.
Got to say, mighty on a roll.
And after a bunch of mods to the boat, so
what's
given
been
it was
done
a bunch of mods, you can't really put your finger exactly on it.
Right. She looks good in the photos, boys. So she looks.
Yeah, no, she's a great.
Congratulations for pulling up the right sales, mate. You've done well.
Mm-hmm.
That's all your work.
The black ones.
Yeah, the black ones. No,
exactly. Yeah.
You look like you got them upright in the right way.
Quick little anecdote. Well, quick little one. Basically, off the start line, downwind, and then full noise reach out to Ponza.
Yeah.
So we're jib top on, jib, Janelle stays all full main. And then you're seeing all these other boats in similar or different configurations. The new Magic Carpet, pace on, just bow out, just smoking.
Seen it. Beautiful photo. Beautiful video, yeah.
Looks awesome. We had the Gunboat 80, Highland Fling, just up off our hip. Now, an 80-foot catamaran flying a hull doing 28, 30 knots.
Wow.
That's a sight.
Not bad look.
That's amazing. But you beat them all home, boss. You beat everyone home.
Yeah, no, it was obviously sheer skill and determination, which led to that.
The Galatea, just laying it out there. Magic Carpet boys would be devastated, and Island Fling would be devastated.
Well, it was basically in the end, apart from that reach, then a massive beat upwind.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, there's not many boats in the world that go upwind like a Wally Shento. Pretty nice.
Definitely set up for it, yes. You look at the shape.
Pretty nice.
Yep.
And then we got to the other end of the course, and it's always tricky, like literally breeze coming from the other direction, on another side of the rock, and it's like, here we go. Some park ups are going to ensue, which several boats did. We managed to sneak through with a bunch of others, but took the win. And then, as you do, you don't sleep in little short races like that. And throughout yesterday, so by the time I got to bed, Betty buys and put me Jimmy Jammies on last night. There's one tired boy. So, and here we are.
I didn't think you were going to actually wake up to your
That's what
alarm.
you do for yachting.
Yeah. Inshore series starts tomorrow. So be good to keep an eye on that in regards to what is that going to hold for the year coming up with Duralia in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Maxi Worlds in September.
Great race. Yep.
Very cool. You're having a dream.
It's just all exciting. It's just all exciting for you, Bossy. I mean, how do you fit it all in, the sailing and the work, and then obviously bar karate being the highest priority?
Well, absolutely. So that is a very good question, and I don't really have an answer.
Yeah,
neither do I. I just bite off more than chew and chew like fuck.
The old Greg Yeoman's motto.
Cool. All right, well, keep
What else
going.
is going on just across the waterways here? We got the RC44 Cup in Porto Cervo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, isn't this a boat that just, or a class that just keeps going and going and going?
Keeps on keeping on.
Everyone you speak to, just love the boats. Not lucky enough to have sailed one myself, but it's pretty cool.
They just love hanging off the side of the things, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Some proper old school yachting there. So what do we got?
I'm thinking it's just a bunch of star sailors that have just got nowhere else to go.
Team Nika and Artemis are currently running first and second.
Yeah.
At time of listening, they're probably finished, but it's either one of those two will win it.
Yeah.
Ahead of Black Star, I'd say.
I'm not
and
sure
the
they
new
got
team,
much
Jumeirah.
racing in
Sweets.
yesterday. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
But you're right what you say there, Bice. It is a fleet that just keeps on giving, and we love it. We should do a bit of focusing on them because they just sort of trickle along in the background, don't they, the whole time, and they're always big numbers there.
Yeah, actually,
absolutely.
And a lot of pros, but I did notice even the Dragon Worlds, the top three. I was looking at all the pro names in that, like everyone, all the pros must have been. How busy they must have been over the weekend. Just it's crazy what's going on. So many things.
All going on. Plenty going on. Anyway.
Well,
what else did I see was on the Ilka Worlds in
yes,
Qingdao?
Ilka.
How crazy was that? So 4 days of no wind, 1 day of light wind, and then nuking.
Yeah, and then they had what they did tried to get the whole regatta away in basically 2 days.
Yeah.
And
which is good.
I must admit,
that's what it's about.
I'm not terribly up to speed on the results. What I did see is just the imagery out of Qingdao, and nothing's changed since the Olympics. Still can't see anything. All the smog. How do you see the top mark? That's what I want to know.
Crazy.
Well, that's it. That's it.
They had some good coverage.
Part, isn't it?
Yeah. Willem Weersema from the Netherlands won in the 7. Pavlos, the perennial laser sailor, Pavlos Kontitis in 2nd, and then Zach Littlewood, I think, liked a bit of wind. He's the prodigy, the up-and-coming prodigy in the men's, and then Luis Vera. I got trying to think of a French way of pronouncing that. I couldn't think of one. So,
fluent.
Yeah,
straight from Paddy.
Agata Bowinska of Poland, Severa. And then Eve McMahon from Ireland. Another champion coming out of Ireland. Yeah. That's good to see.
Yeah, love that. It's good to see. Polish, obviously, Agata.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's on. It
was the Australians, Elise Ainsworth in for 7th. I think it was 7th. Beating Zoe Thompson.
Yep.
Anyway.
Anything else?
What else we got going on, boys? I took your eye this week.
I have to say, Australian Sailing has announced that Australia's back in for the Youth Worlds.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's like a bad dream that we're just waking up from, to be honest.
Well, and it's going to be the Youth Worlds are in Portugal this time, remember?
Nice place, Portugal.
Beautiful place, yep. So any of the youngsters out there, Australian youngsters listening in, try hard because she's a glamour spot. It's definitely worth getting in the team. You'll have a ball. And it's cheap.
Imagine some of those little discussions over the board table.
Well, I'm just yes. Well, there's if you want to be CEO of Australian Sailing, that is available right now. They're advertising. I'm wondering whether I should put my hand up.
I'll go for it.
Oh, we could start the campaign.
No.
Do you think you'd be allowed to
Bicey,
No.
we
be
get
allowed
Jordan
to
the
do bar
job.
karate?
Yep. No, we get Jordan the job. We get Jordan the job, and we're winning that award, man.
Actually, boys, I had an idea this week.
Do it.
Tell us.
High vis.
No, this is genuine. I think we need to do this.
Sit down, Bicey. It's all happening.
No, the next time we're together, the three of us, right? I'm serious. We're going to work out the next time we're together. You know, was it Bunnings today, right? Around 1:30. So you know what was on my mind. We needed to pick some stuff from Bunnings.
Sausages.
Yeah. Sent the bride in to pick the stuff up and went straight to the sausage sizzle. I reckon I'm genuine. I reckon the next time the three of us together, we should book the sausage sizzle tent at the local Bunnings and get a few bar karate people together, come down, and so we man the bar karate, we man it, but whatever we raise, we just give back into sailing. We'll just do it as get some snags and some drinks, and we'll raise a bit of money and just do a donation to the sport because I reckon. Imagine the crew that would assemble.
Why don't we get our listeners in to help to give us a story about their club, and then we'll choose the best club, and then we'll go to the Bunnings in the area.
There you go. That's a good one.
Maybe the BK1, we can give a purchase list of all the items to buy from Bunnings for the BK1.
But we'll have to. Before anyone gets too excited,
A4 piece of paper.
Before anyone gets too excited,
some Aquadeer glue.
Shut up, you idiots!
And some
paper mache that bastard together,
and some 1 1/4 inch wood screws.
The next time the three of us together, it could be years. We don't know when it's going to happen.
2028.
When we work out, I think that we should.
We can hardly get together for a show anymore. It's like that busy.
Yeah. But I think we should do that. Are you guys keen? I reckon we should do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
I reckon.
So when we work out we're going to be
exactly?
together, we'll pull it together. Okay, but
we're going to Bunnings.
Go to Bunnings.
I like the idea of clubs putting in the why us sort of thing.
Yeah.
Telling us why we should support you.
But we'll have to tell them the area we're going to be in. Otherwise, we're not going to.
Cheers at barkarate.com.
Yeah. Cheers at barkarate.com.
Just hey clubs, just don't worry about Jordan. Just tell us why.
All right, go for it. Cool. All right, I think that's us, boys. That's everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good one.
Yeah. Hey, Bicey, great work on Galateo, mate. Send us more photos and keep us interested and in touch on the week. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Nice, boys.
Thanks. And thanks, Rohan. Great app.
With us. Yeah, thanks, Rohan.
Cheers at barkarate.com. What else? Radix Nutrition, discount on us. Barkarate is your discount code. And, of course, go to Vycobi to get the UV tops. Or you can just go to Barkarate, the website, barkarate.com if you want the hoodies. It's getting cold in Australia and you will never be cold wearing the Barkarate hoodies. They are insane.
Oh, love it.
It's beautifully modelled by my wife today. Cool.
Well done, Jack.
See you, team. Well done, Jack.
Making it home, making one tonight.
Yeah. See you, boys.
See you, mate.